Hey Auto Squad, producer Dylan here, introducing episode 8 of Spider-Man Miles Morales. Redemption was originally released back on August 18th, 2021. In the conclusion of the main story, we must do everything we can to save Harlem, as we also maybe shed a few tears for someone making the ultimate sacrifice for the city. So come cry with us next on AutoSave.
Welcome to AutoSave. I'm Camille Salazar-Hadaway, and here with me is my co-host, Nick Andrade. Nick, how you doing, boy? You're dancing a lot.
I am. This is what gets me going for this episode. It gets me excited. I'm thinking about Miles Morales. I'm thinking about Spider-Man. I'm thinking about video games. I'm thinking about superheroes, and it gets me amped. I got the audience can't see, but my Black Panther shirt that I got from Uniqlo.
That is cool.
Yeah.
I thought at first, because it's just, I know our listeners can't see because obviously listening.
Yes.
But it's a black shirt with the Black Panther eyes.
Yes.
But from my point of view, I thought this is going to be a way back reference. Inspector Gadget.
Oh.
Dr. Claw.
Dr. Claw.
Yeah, the cat eyes. That's what
This is giving me a throwback here.
Yeah.
And this is how he talked, Inspector Gadget.
Yeah.
That is so good. Next time, Gadget. See, I can't do the voice. Can you do it like that?
Next time.
What does he say? What's the phrase?
He says, next time, Gadget, next time.
Next time, Gadget, next time.
See, that's so good. You should go into voice acting. We're off to a good start. But for those of you at home, we are both gamers who are sharing our love for the games we love with you. We take deep dives into some of the most talked about video games, and in this episode, we are continuing our playthrough of Spider-Man Miles Morales into missions 16 and 17, the finale.
Oh, baby.
I know, it's so dramatic. So where did we leave off last time? Well, it was an action-packed episode that dealt with a bigger theme of betrayal, as Miles found out Uncle Aaron was working with Simon Krieger. Finn, obviously thinking Miles was in on all of this betrayal, turned on him. And then Uncle Aaron just made things worse.
Ganke, my uncle just kidnapped me. Locked me up.
What? Dude, are you okay?
I had to fight him. Then I told him, we're done. For good.
I'm sorry. That can't have been easy.
It's what I had to do. I'm headed to the Science Center. Call me if things get bad in Harlem.
I will. Good luck, Spider-Man.
So a messy situation. Miles is done, obviously, with Uncle Aaron as he focuses now on stopping Finn and her plans, which would cause a gigantic catastrophe in Harlem, explosions, chaos. All on Christmas? No, not on Christmas, but
No, it's
around
not.
the holidays.
I want to say too, like, if you think your family is messed up, try to see your uncle kidnapped you. Okay. So maybe your problems with your family aren't so bad. You're not getting kidnapped and held captive.
Yeah. And luckily, well, we kind of are holding them captive because they're now just stuck to listening to our voices. But at least it's not family drama. We're like strangers kind of. So it's just stranger danger. That's all it is.
Oh, God.
All right. But, that takes us to the finale.
Yes.
And we are finally here. The last two missions of the game. And it's all about to go down, especially when the game prompts you to save because you cannot go back.
I always know that it is about to go down when 100% it says you cannot do anything else once you hit this mark. So I'm like, oh crap. I remember I tried to do as much as I could because I'm like, okay, I spent like 2-3 hours like doing whatever else side missions because I'm like, oh,
yeah,
I don't know if like this ends the game and I can't go back and do things, so I might as well.
I know it's a great time and a reminder to reflect on your progress in the game and to finish up any loose ends. But before we talk about specifically this game, I want to talk about our theme for the day, which is redemption. This could be a lot of things, where a villain maybe sees the light, or a main protagonist sees or does things differently than what we've seen before. And it usually goes down at the end. It also deals with people getting a second chance.
Yeah.
Nick, I'm actually going to throw it to you first. What are some of your favorite examples of redemption?
Again, I love going down this rabbit hole because, like, let's say you like search Google and it's gonna come up with Darth Vader, Loki, Severus Snape. It's gonna come up with the main ones. But then I started going down and I started finding things, and then I thought, oh my God, Prince Zuko from The Last Airbender, 100%. He was a villain at the start of the show, and then by the end, with character development, he ended up becoming one of the heroes. And then I thought, oh my God, this one I thought on my own, which was the Grinch.
Oh, yeah.
Of course, because we both love Christmas, by the way.
We are huge Christmas fanatics.
And of course, the Grinch, he started off bad. And then guess what? His heart grew 3 sizes and then he became the savior of Christmas. Even though, he ruined Christmas to start. But that's okay. We won't talk about that. But
he caused the problem and then solved it himself. He's picking up after himself, which, this happens around Christmas. So maybe there's a Grinch connection with Miles Morales.
Yes.
Right? So
yeah, is there any that come to mind for you?
Immediately, I just go back to kind of Simba because, after that tragic scene in The Lion King,
yes,
Simba kind of turns his back on his people.
Pride Rock.
Right?
Yeah.
On Pride Rock, on Nala, on his family, although he's kind of forced to do that through his evil uncle. Another
oh my God
connection to Miles Morales.
Is Miles Morales just Lion King? Did we just unlock
Lion King
this?
and the Grinch? Yeah. We unlocked this trophy.
Oh my God.
But yeah, I would say that because then meeting Timon and Pumbaa, he kind of has a change of heart, and then when he sees Nala again, then he goes back to kind of help be the savior of Pride Rock and take his rightful throne as the king. And then obviously, I think the more popular one is Loki. Although Loki he's in this cycle of redemption and messing up.
That's why I wanted to mention him specifically, because almost in every Thor movie or Avengers, he's bad and good, bad and good, bad and good. It's just like, make up your mind, dude. Like, are you just always going to be, you're always going to make a mistake and then you're going to feel like bad about it and then fix it and then go bad again? Like, come on, man. I've had enough.
I know. And apparently everyone had enough of him because, well, Thanos just squeezed the living light out of him.
Yes. Yes.
Then we have Severus Snape.
Yes.
We all thought he was a bad guy.
You know what? I don't know how much you dive into Harry Potter here, but I am a Harry Potter nutso, okay? I've read and reread the books a million times. I've watched all the movies a million times. I will never consider Severus Snape a good guy.
What?
I don't care that he helped Harry this entire time behind his back and sacrificed himself with Voldemort and all that stuff. This guy was a complete douchebag to Harry. And the kids, probably like physical and mental abuse to these kids in school. Like, these kids are 11 to 17, very impressionable. And he was a straight up douchebag to them. Like, made fun of the kids sometimes, made Hermione cry once because her teeth were big in an engorgement spell. Come on. I'm just saying, like, you helped Harry this entire time, but you couldn't be a little bit more nice to him. So, you know what? Yes, there's redemption, but at the same time, screw you, Severus Snape.
I mean, I'll let you have that one.
Thank you.
Although tough love, maybe? I don't know.
No.
We also have someone else who has tough love, Darth Vader, that whole time. Although he was kind of manipulated, so you have that. But then he kind of revealed himself and he was in it for his family. Then we have Gru. Gru's another one. Gru's actually a really fun one.
Oh, yes, Gru.
That's so good. Can we just dedicate a whole segment on this show of you just doing impressions?
We will.
Yeah.
We will eventually. But again, Despicable Me.
Yeah.
He's evil and then good.
Exactly.
Because of children.
Children's the heart of everything.
See, Severus Snape? Children. You can be nice to children. Just saying, Gru is nice.
Gru is nice to children. And obviously, they're another example of the redemption story. And you know what? The list goes on and on. We could sit here and listen to Nick do a bunch of impressions. But unfortunately, we have to continue with the show. After the break, we dive into some gameplay on AutoSave.
Close for renovation, and the underground moves right in. Finn's gotta be inside.
All right, so you head over to Oscorp Science Center, which looks very beautiful, by the way. And this is where you find the underground, and they're hiding out there. While the Science Center is closed for renovations, what a coincidence. Now, make sure you've done everything in this game, as we mentioned before, because the game actually prompts you that you cannot turn back because you're pretty much at the end of the game. So, Nick, how did you handle that?
Again, like I said, I tried to do as much as I could beforehand. Any missions that I thought maybe I wouldn't be able to do afterwards. I think I did all the friendly neighborhood quests right before I did this. And then I started to slowly realize that it was going to take forever. So I'm just like, I'll do it later. So after I did all the friendly neighborhood quests, but there was still a bunch of things I had to unlock. But I was like, let me just finish the game first, and then I'll go back and do that.
So the first time.
Oh, right. Yes. Out of the four.
The first time I went through this, you know, when you're just reading something really quickly and you just press the continue button, not realizing what you're doing.
Yes.
I made that mistake. I had to restart my PlayStation and go back.
Oh, so you restarted. You just didn't go with it. You restarted.
No, I was like, no, I'm not done. And then I finished up the missions that I had left, which wasn't too many because, as I mentioned before, I was kind of doing things as they became available to me and trying to finish all those side quests as I went through with the story. But yeah, I made that mistake. So don't be too quick with your fingers. Read the screen. Just read the screen.
I do like that though, by the way. I do like when those prompts come because one, you know that something big is going to happen like we talked about before. I do like that end mission is almost kind of like a movie.
Yes.
So it tells you like strap in, we're ready for a ride, baby.
Yeah.
Whoop-de-de-doo.
Whoop-de-de-doo. By the way, that's our new catchphrase. Sorry if it annoys you, but it's sticking with us. All right. Now, when you get into this area, you have to kind of first stealth your way through some underground guards outside of the museum. And, you know, there's lots of room because it's pretty open. You could do pretty much anything you want, and you can handle this any way you want to. And then you have to disable the generators around the entrance to find a way in, just like in the previous missions, which for me was a little disappointing. I wanted something a little bit different here, especially because we've talked about before connecting those nodes through like the doors and the generator could sometimes be a little bit tedious when you're trying to find them, and it's just why?
Once you do it a few times, it's just like, I get it's a part of the game, like this is a mechanic that you have to see once in a while. Obviously you have venom power, so it's going to work like that, but man, they do it so many times. I was like, again, ugh.
Yeah, it's like, can we just get to the butt kicking, please, and just get on with it?
Exactly.
But once you actually do that, you enter the Science Center and you take a trip down memory lane.
Come on, Molasses. I want to see our project while we're still young.
Where tomorrow's innovation is today's reality.
I'm coming. Hey, where'd they put us?
I've got the museum map on my phone. Our project's in a special exhibit on the top floor. Can't wait to see our names on the little sign, like real scientists.
Today, the Oscorp Science Center. Tomorrow, every major museum in the world.
All right, so you get to explore the Science Center with Finn. It goes back, but there's no like the wave wipes of like the 90s to like take you back down memory lane.
Yeah.
But I really actually do like these moments where you kind of go back to, especially with the relationship with Finn and Miles, and you kind of see a little bit more of that. So you kind of get a sense of all the types of tech and bioengineered animals that are in the Science Center. And it's pretty cool when you're exploring through, and you could actually notice a few things if you keep your eyes open.
Right off the bat, you meet accidentally Peter and Doc Ock. And you don't know them yet. You don't know Peter at all. But they're actually looking at the tech that Doc Ock actually ends up using for his suit. And yeah, that's where everything kicks off. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, it's really interesting too that like we saw that kind of in the last kind of throwback cutscene as well. You see Peter while he's on his break, right? I love that. It's like Miles and Peter always, they had this weird connection in this world. They just didn't know of each other. And like that connection wasn't fully grown yet because, you know, Miles didn't get bit by a spider.
Have you ever had a situation in life where you found out someone that you knew ended up going like either to the same school or going to the same place at the same time, and then you actually talk later on, and then you realize that, oh my God, I knew you before, but I didn't know you.
Yeah.
I don't know if that situation's happened to me, but I'm asking you.
But you know what? Actually, that happened with me with my partner, Adam. We grew up in the same neighborhood, literally a street away from each other. Didn't go to the same school because I went to a cooler school. And in high school, one of his friends became like my best friend. And then when we met, we're like, wait, you lived there? I lived here. And then it was more like, wait, you went to this? I went to this. So we figured out we knew a lot of the same people because, you know, small town back then, not really small town now. And we just had so many of these occurrences where we were probably in the same place at the same time, just didn't know each other.
You know what? Now that you mention it, I just remembered my girlfriend and I were in London, England at pretty much identical times. And that's crazy to me.
Wow.
We didn't know each other, and I don't even know if I ever saw her, but we met up afterwards, and then we found out that we were in London at the exact same time. And I thought that was pretty creepy or weird or good, whatever it is. But I thought that was really cool.
Well, I think that's cool. There's really not too many instances where you will travel somewhere and know someone that's also in that place, unless you've planned it, right? Just coincidentally, right? So I think that's really cool. But Nick, you think that something else is really cool when we're going around the Science Center, right?
This is something that it hasn't been mentioned in any Easter eggs or anything like that, but I feel like this is a nod to something that's going to happen in either the next game or the next few games, which is the Oscorp talks about their Mars rovers. They talk about their rockets and their spaceships and stuff. To me, that's reminding me of maybe that symbiote is somehow going to be involved in this. And I know because in the first Spider-Man game, what I wanted the most was a symbiote suit. That's one of my favorite suits in all of the Spider-Man universe. And there wasn't one, so I was disappointed. And I went online and I checked as to why. And the creators of the game actually said that they left out the symbiote suit because it's going to have a role in further games. So one, I'm really stoked for that, but two is I think that's maybe a little nod to what we might see in the future. And again, it's really subtle, but I feel like that's where it might be heading, because it might be heading towards a Venom being introduced, and I thought that'd be really, really cool.
Yeah, and the post-credit scene kind of hints of the first Spider-Man that the symbiote is definitely coming. Or oh my God, the Venom movie, symbiote. Why do they say symbiote? The doctor in the trailer says symbiote. It really irritates me. So every time I say symbiote, I just am like, oh, the doctor in the Venom movie. Yeah.
Right before the take, the actor was probably like, how do you say this? and they're like, it's symbiote. And he's like, all right, got it. And then he's like, symbiote. And they're like, cut, got it, whatever, who cares? Move on.
Got it. And they're like, this movie sucks anyways. We're just going to keep rolling. All right. So when you're in the Science Center, for some reason, you're not allowed on the top floor where your exhibit is, because guess what? You don't have a ticket, even though,
which I thought was dumb,
your project's there. But is it kind of like, that is something you could definitely see happening in real life, where it's like you're supposed to get into something, but just because you don't have a ticket, although you are a presenter there, they don't let you in. So I kind of like the fact that that was a problem for Miles.
And they're kids too. So, the attendant is probably like, get out of scram, you dumb kids. You don't have an exhibit here. You're lying. You just want to sabotage something.
I never thought about it that way. But yeah, the attendant probably was like, okay, you little kids, sure, you have a presentation up there, okay? You're not science genius.
Yeah.
All right, but you do a little mini quest, and you take actually the shape memory to use it to shine a reflecting light at the door sensor to get it open. So you kind of like get the shape memory alloy, and then you slide it under the door, which I thought was really cool. And then you use your phone to kind of change the shape of it. And I actually like this. I wanted more quest with the shape memory alloy. Is that weird?
It's like everyone wants like
so
Spider-Man fighting. Everyone wants all this other stuff. But no, Cam wants, let's do these little side quests of that. I thought it was ingenious, obviously. These kids are like brainiacs, because you can't be a superhero without being a brainiac. But like, I was like, oh, okay. I probably would have just resigned and gone home. I cried.
Yeah.
But they are very ingenious.
They're so good. And honestly, it's kind of... it kind of moves like Tetris. So like there's set shapes that you could shape the memory foam to, or memory alloy, too. But like this could have been a Tetris side quest. Okay, we have different shape alloys. We got to kind of drop them in the slot. I'm just putting out ideas in there. Insomniac, if you need for the next game, just hit me up. Let's add Tetris to this. It'd be awesome. Now, Finn and Miles talk about how they're both going to different schools. This is kind of like their last project together, and you get a phone call from your dad. Then you meet up with Rick for a conversation and basically just building more of a backstory about how close Finn and Miles were before you head back to the grim reality that's no longer the case.
I love backstory. I love character building, especially knowing how close they were before they went to high school in different places. It just makes you see how this relationship is so close and why they're kind of struggling to understand each other while, being at odds ends, basically. They still want to be there for each other, but they're finding it difficult. But you can see the struggle because they really do care for each other. And I thought, basically, if people were going to the Oscorp Center thinking, something huge was going to happen, I did like that they kind of started off first with this to kind of just give us a nice little sentimental moment before all the carnage later.
Well, and that's a great way to build up the, oh my God, it's going to go down. Because from, our last mission, there's a bunch of side missions that you could do. So you kind of lose, when you're dealing with a game that has a bunch of side missions and it's not sending you on a direct path all the time, you lose the buildup or the momentum of the emotion that this character may have with other characters. So it's a great reminder when you're jumping back, and a lot of games will do this. When you're jumping back to complete the game, they have that little warning, this is the end, save, all that stuff. But usually they start the events with either a cutscene that connects the emotional, like what's at risk for that character emotionally, and then the badass action, which we're all here for as well. What I liked about this moment when Rick shows up is he takes the picture that we see actually in Miles's room of Finn, Rick, and Miles. So I thought that was just a really cool way to connect the two. And I think the game's done that previously, where you see like a little trinket in Miles's room and it's actually something to a flashback. So I like that.
I think too, like Rick, he has obviously a huge role in Finn's life, but again, you kind of see, he was also in Miles' life, and this is a big character that we lost, even though we don't see too much about him in the game. They kind of show you like Rick is a very huge part in maybe why Finn thinks this way. Obviously they're related and they're brother and sister, that's fine, but they were really, really, really close, and they were really close with their best friend as well.
It was sweet to see. Now, once this flashback is over, Finn shows up, and she isn't messing around. She's pretty much still angry as she was last time she saw you. And you can't stop her as she takes the new form and dips. Like, she completely leaves and leaves you with a bunch of underground to deal with and fight off. And that kind of wraps up Mission 16, which was basically straight up a backstory builder. So, Nick, like, how did you feel with ending that mission there?
It's basically a prelude. It's just setting up what's to come, and it's like, oh crap, Finn is still pissed, you're screwed. But that sentimentalness is just like thrown out the window completely, because now you got to get in gear and you got to fight.
Yeah, they were like, oh, you felt emotion, you felt calm, well, that's gone, we're throwing it out the window.
Wow.
Yeah, they literally did that to you. But I like that contrast, because then it's you're getting that mix of what Miles is dealing with, right? Like we've talked about how his emotions are complex because he has this relationship with someone and he's trying to kind of help them redeem themselves, right? And he just can't get to them. And now we see that it's not like gonna be as easy as like them just saying Martha.
Oh my God, stop, don't bring that up.
Calming down.
Martha. Oh my God, we have things in common. We can't fight anymore.
Exactly. And it's much more of a complex issue for Finn and Miles. But all of the ending of Mission 16 builds up to the climax, the end, Mission 17, the battle for Harlem.
Yankee, talk to me. How's the evacuation going?
Bad. Rocks on and underground are all over. It's like a war zone.
Are you safe? My mom?
We made it. There was about a dozen people, but
You're breaking up. Where are you? Yankee! If you can hear me, I'm on my way. Hang tight, man. Please.
All right, so it looks like the Underground and Roxxon are now battling it out. Pretty much just all chaos is around Harlem. And Harlem is in danger, and Genki and your mom are evacuating people because they're just such great people. And you head over to Roxxon to deal with it. Now, the objective is stop the war in Harlem. I mean, firstly, how do you stop a war in Harlem?
Right. I laughed so hard when I saw this mission because I'm like, oh, that's pretty general. Stop the war in Harlem. Oh, stop a war? I'm sorry. What does that entail?
Yeah.
And literally, as you go through it, you start to understand, okay, yes, you do have to stop the war in Harlem.
I feel like usually in games we get the sense that there's the good guys and the bad guys. And usually you'll see like the one bad guy group going against like if it's the police or the citizens. But this kind of reminds me in the Arkham series as well, when kind of hell broke loose on the streets.
The factions. Yeah.
Exactly. And the different factions were kind of warring. I was like, they were worried because others were after them. But yes, they were warring. And yeah, it was just so chaotic. And it's chaotic because you kind of lose that connection with Genki when it's like, Genki, you're breaking up. So that was kind of crazy to see. But at this time, you can't hide behind camouflage.
No.
It's all about melee this time. And on your way to your objective, you actually literally have to pummel people like crazy. You have to fight, whether it's Roxxon, the Underground, and I kind of like the chaos just coming at you at once. How did you feel about that?
Especially when I think a lot of these missions throughout the game are stealth based. This is the time that you can just, all that pent up aggression that you have, you could just use it because this is just clear button mashing. You're going from tower to building to street level, just punching people everywhere, just trying to like get rid of them all. At some point, I'm just like, okay, when is this ending? Because you're just fighting literally everybody. So when it does say stop the war in Harlem again, it means it because you have to fight literally every guard or underground bully imaginable. And it just takes some time. But again, button mash, have fun with it, punch around because this is probably your last time that you get to do so.
Yeah, and the thing is too, there's like, okay, so there's fire on the roofs, there's a winter storm, like it's very hard to see because there's so much that is happening on your screen. And for me, it was the underground brutes that really proved to be the most difficult.
Oh yeah, so annoying
because they take a lot more punches than the little guys. The little guys, you could probably do like just a 1-2 combo and they're down, right? And a little venom punch here and they're down. But the brutes, it's like you actually have to spend a lot of time with them, and that usually would not be a problem. But when you have like literally 8 other Roxxon and Underground guys coming at you, it's very difficult. So I liked the chaos in this one. It was just a completely different atmosphere, and it really embodied a war.
It did. And those underground guys with the shields, my God, because you have to get rid of the shields. Then I think they have big hands as well.
Yes, they do.
And it's like multiple layers that you have to get rid of just to get rid of these guys. And then again, like you said, other underground and Roxxon guys are shooting at you at the same time. You just have to dodge it all. But again, the chaos, it's fun chaos.
It is fun chaos. And after taking care of business, you finally find Genki and your mom. When?
Spider-Man sighted.
Get out of here, young blood! You've got more important things to do.
He's right. Go. We'll get people clear.
I'll be back.
I know. Okay, people! Check every door! We don't leave anyone behind!
All right, so would you look there? Uncle Aaron comes crawling back to save the day from a Roxxon gunman. And it looks like he's going to help, Miles and Genki and his mom kind of evacuate people while Miles deals with Finn. So now the question is this really a redemption arc for Uncle Aaron? Did he really see the errors in his way, or?
I think at the end of the mission where you beat him, he starts to, again, every villain always, they see the light after you like beat them in some boss battle. It seemed like at the end maybe he did, and then he had some time to think about it, and this was his shining moment. I think it is a redemption story here. I think that's what they're trying to go for. However, I will mention I'm kind of slightly disappointed by it. I was expecting the Prowler to come at a more detrimental time to save the day. This kind of seemed like it was forced, where they're like, okay, we need to wrap up Uncle Aaron's story. We don't have him maybe at the end, and so let's find a way. And then it's the cliched, I'm about to shoot you, but no, I'm going to come in just in time and save the day. Because it seemed like Miles, we just went through a giant war where we were like not killing, because Spider-Man doesn't kill. We were hitting everyone, knocking out everyone. There, that's the term.
Thwipping everyone.
Yes. It wasn't like Miles was out of gas where he was in trouble. It just seemed like, if anything, the Roxxon guard was like fumbling and he didn't know what was going on. So I'm pretty sure that Miles could have taken care of it.
Yeah, the Roxxon guard was like, all right, I think the Prowler is supposed to show up now. I'm just going to act like I'm pulling out my gun, but I'm not really.
Where is he?
They're in it together. I actually, you know what? I disagree with you. I feel like
okay.
I do prefer this kind of redemption arc, because then it's not a full conclusion to his character, which I don't want to see yet. I feel like there's more to the Prowler than just to see him go good all of a sudden. And then it kind of leaves him open if we see him in other games or later on in this story to what he could potentially do. So I like the fact that he kind of shows up with some random gunman that Miles could have fully handled by himself and is like, I'll save the day. Because it kind of does give a sense of like he's not genuine about his full intentions. And even though if he is going to help out here, it doesn't necessarily mean that he does understand what Miles is doing and standing for the greater good of things. He still may be selfish. And this could fully be seen as selfish. He just cares about his relationship with his nephew rather than the greater good. Right? Like you could kind of see it like that. That's why he's showing up, just because he doesn't want Miles to hate him.
That's a good point. I don't know if I feel like you're overanalyzing it a little bit, but my only counter argument to that is he lets Miles go on. So I think his selfishness is now kind of almost wiped away, because this is the thing that he didn't want Miles to do, and now he's letting him do it. And you're seeing him, he's like, go get it, young blood. Like, go do it. Like, go do what you have to do. So I feel like that was him changing his opinion. So I do agree with you in a sense, but I also disagree with you a little bit. But that's our conversation. We can agree to disagree. That's all.
We could agree to disagree. But what I want to ask before we move on, do you think Miles' mom knows that Uncle Aaron is the Prowler? And the only reason I ask this is when the Prowler shows up, she actually looks to the Prowler and is like, we'll handle the people. They kind of come to an understanding, but just like the camera goes to her and then the Prowler, and it kind of gave me a sense that they know each other.
That's a good point. I honestly didn't even think about that at all, but now that I think about it, yeah, it's probably the case that she does know who he is, because especially, Miles' dad and Uncle Aaron, they were at odds with each other, and he kind of left the family, right? So I feel like she would have known why and what the reason was behind it. Especially, Miles' dad was a cop, and obviously they're married, so I'm sure they had conversations. But again, like I'm sure she would have wondered, like, where has Uncle Aaron gone? And I feel like this is a situation where he probably would have divulged exactly who he is.
Yeah, and Miles' dad did have the files of the Prowler, right? So it's pretty plausible that Miles' mom probably saw those files as well. But after this whole Uncle Aaron showing up just in the nick of time, I guess, Miles continues to pursue Finn.
No! You don't know what you're doing!
They deserve what's coming to them!
No! The reactor! Krieger changed the specs. You're not just gonna destroy Roxxon Plaza. You're gonna vaporize all of Harlem!
I'm not gonna let you lie to me again!
So you finally get to confront Finn about the reactor, telling her what you've been trying to tell her this whole time, that Simon changed the specs of the reactor and it's going to vaporize all of Harlem. But Finn says, you're lying. Classic case of, I don't believe you. You're the bad hero guy.
Boy cries wolf.
Exactly. And basically all the things that, he's done wrong before this is coming back to haunt Miles. A lot of that is Uncle Aaron's fault. And listening to Uncle Aaron's advice, for not telling Finn the truth from the start. And that kind of leads her into that trap by accident and why she's so unwilling to hear Miles out, which I feel like it would have went differently if Miles made the right choice from the start.
Exactly. Everything he did beforehand. I think this is how he comes into his own throughout the game. He grows up a little bit more and more, where at the beginning he kind of feels like he needs to use people's advice because he doesn't really know what to do. At this point in the game, now he's really understanding who he is. But I love this back and forth. You get a snippet of it there in that audio clip, but throughout this whole thing, it's almost like a back and forth, where Miles says something like, you have to believe me, and Finn says, no, this is the reason, and Miles says, no, this is the reason. And you can see this tug of war as to both their opinions, and they're just trying to hash it out, but like they can't see eye to eye at all. But I love this back and forth that they have.
Yeah, and this is all leading to the big showdown, right? The boss fight at Roxxon Plaza. Finn versus Miles, Miles versus Finn, the one in the purple, the one in the red and black. And honestly, when we first kind of had that interaction with Finn, I got really excited because of how Finn fights was just different than any of the other boss fights that you've encountered. And we kind of got that sneak peek earlier on. So going into this boss fight, I was really excited. And trust me when I say it does not disappoint. The first phase of the boss fight, Finn is fairly slow with her sword. And, you kind of dodge when she swings. And then that leaves it open for combos to happen. And then you use your Venom power. So it's kind of like what we've been through before. Right?
Right.
Miles is still struggling to convince Finn throughout the fight. Miles will say, you got to listen, the reactor. And Finn's like, you're lying. Not good voiceover as Nick would provide, but I went for it.
I liked it. It was good.
Thank you. Finn says that she ran the numbers and that the reactor would not explode, giving her more confidence that Miles is actually trying to trick her instead of helping her. And she doesn't think really Krieger is smart enough to change the reactor, which I mean, she isn't wrong.
Right, exactly. Yeah, like I can understand her thought process here. Simon just seems like a guy who he has the money, but he doesn't have the wit, and he just uses everyone else to do his dirty work, basically.
Mm-hmm. And at first, like when I encountered this fight, I kind of thought it was like stupid that Finn wasn't listening, but because we're talking and like just reflecting at the fact that she believes in what she's doing and she knew she ran the numbers, and because her brother was kind of the really driving force of Newform and created that whole tech, it doesn't make sense that Krieger would be know how to change it up, right? So I completely understand her reasoning here. And that's pretty much the first phase of this fight. And it's pretty easy until...
I don't want to fight. We'll talk. After I disable the reactor. Finn, look! The reactor's still going critical. Soon we won't be able to stop it.
No! I am not running away again!
Now, the reactor explodes, not the worst of it, but it still explodes kind of a little. And you plead with Finn to stop, but she's still not having any of it still, even after the explosion. And this is kind of where I was like, okay, they didn't know how to really explain why she would keep fighting. Maybe the reactor shouldn't have started to explode yet, and they should have created another reason why you keep moving into the phases of the fight.
Right.
How did you feel about her reasoning?
Well, because at this point, before she was like, it's not going to explode, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And then it explodes. And her reasoning is, no, I'm not going to stop. So she realizes, yeah, okay, I messed up with that one. But you know what? I can understand is when you are so down a path, it's very hard to see the light at some point, whether you're really angry, whether you're emotional, whatever it is. It's hard for, even when someone tells you you are wrong, it's hard for someone to see the light in that, especially when you're in the thick of it. And she's fighting Miles at this point. So or she's just too stubborn. She doesn't want to admit she's wrong and she'll just keep fighting. But I think she's super, super angry and nothing he says is going to change that. So even though there's proof right there, it still doesn't matter.
Yeah, actually, you're right. Sometimes being caught up in your emotion just makes you see red and not everything not all the colorful colors from the explosion that's happening around you. She also says at this point that Miles was the one person that she thought was on her side. And that's just echoing the fact that she's still trying to grasp with the sense that Miles betrayed her, quote, betrayed her, although we know that wasn't his intention. Now, this leads to the next phase of the fight, which is a little harder than the first phase. She now has a charge-up beam that she hits you with. You have to make sure that your dodge is ready, that is perfectly timed, and it's still a little relatively slow, but it's a bit harder to time, or I found it was harder to time.
I'm starting to realize that I have to dodge more with this. She's using her like bionic, I don't know what they're called, bionic power changing thingies.
Her bionic arm? I don't know.
Yes. It's like a giant gun that she has to shoot you with, and it creates this giant laser beam of something. Not really sure what it is. But again, she's getting more long range attacks, so you have to stay far away. And you can't really do any combos unless you charge up Venom Power, which you can use through dodge, and then start a combo. But she's more backed off now, and it's harder to get to her.
Exactly. It is harder to get and kind of like spam square when you move closer to her. And that's the key, because they're long range attacks. You have to move closer. And then as you get closer, she kind of pushes you back and you have to do that again and again. I really enjoyed this part when she started to use the beam. I like fights like this. I like having to throw things at your enemies and then trying to move closer. I will play that game all day if it's just that.
I'm the complete opposite. I hate, like, I remember in this fight too, because you have to dodge so many things, but
yeah,
I was just getting in more and more increasingly frustrated because I just wanted to like hit and use combos, and I just felt like I had to dodge so much and use again like ranged attacks, but that's not my forte as much, so I had a little bit more difficulty with it.
Well, you know, good thing you were at least able to get through it at this point. Like, you didn't die already, did you?
I know I didn't die. I never died.
Okay.
But as we talk about this further, I did have some struggles.
All right. Well, after this second phase, you move on to phase 3.
Oh, hey, Battle Royale, my favorite. Just wanted to chime in and let you know, so you don't worry. We're gonna be just fine if this building blows. Hell, we'll be fine if all of Harlem blows. I mean, do you have any idea what kind of insurance we've got? The optics of being the victims of a terrorist attack? Forget Roxxon Plaza. Coming soon, Roxxon City. All right, later, kids.
I have to stop him!
Not like this!
He is such a jerk. Simon Krieger
he's the worst.
is such a jerk. He just makes you hate him. And that's kind of the proof that Finn needs to show that Miles isn't lying, right? So Simon admits that everything's going to blow up and he really doesn't care. He's going to move on and just be filthy rich and be a jerk as always.
What is with villains though? Always telling the protagonists their plans, or like most of the time they don't get away with it, but it's always like it's either a standoff or they're like, yes, it was me. I was the one who activated the power converters. And then it's like,
yeah,
you didn't need to tell them that. And again, Simon, he's like, oh, let me leave a little audio message for these two little darlings to tell them, to get them even more mad because I think they might die.
Yeah.
All is lost. So let me just further tell them my plans. Okay, good idea, Simon.
Especially after he kind of told Spider-Man his plans before.
Yeah.
And then left his baddies to take care of him. And obviously,
got leg day. Take it easy.
Yeah, well, obviously those guys didn't do anything because Miles is still standing here trying to take him down. Was he in the car, like in his limo, being driven around Harlem as it's exploding, and was like, wait, let me just go on the PA system here and let me just drop a little knowledge. for the Spider-Man and out me more. Yeah, it doesn't make sense. But, you know, I guess when you're wealthy and you see that you could rebuild Harlem after the explosion and make it Roxxon City, why not brag about it?
This guy literally wants to kill millions of people so he can start a new tech-savvy city. I don't know. It's just, come on, man.
Come on, man. It ain't cool. Now, phase 3 of the boss fight, it's probably the hardest fight in the game, right?
Yeah, in general, this fight is the hardest, at least for me. And phase 3 is when I started to realize that I was going to have a lot of difficulty with this. I didn't die, like I said, but I was close to dying many times. And it's just, more and more, she just keeps getting more ranged attacks. So you have to stay further away from her. And I was just having so much difficulty with this. I was literally just dodging and hoping and praying that I got a moment to attack. But this one took me a while.
Yeah. And Finn is definitely faster now. And like you mentioned, has more attacks that kind of back you off her. So it's really hard to even try to get close and use your Venom power. It seemed like to me when I was going through phase 3, like you're just dodging all the time, and like the hits that you get in aren't really doing damage because you can't get in that many hits at all. So it was kind of discouraging at that point.
There was a point in this fight where I was just dodging so much and nothing was happening that I was just like, am I ever going to beat this fight?
Yeah.
I was getting really frustrated because it took me a long time because I just couldn't figure out how to get to Finn as often.
The first time I played through this, I did die at this point, especially with the micro cannons that she summons somehow. And they shoot projectiles at you and you kind of have to latch onto those projectiles and then fling it back to her. It was really chaotic. And honestly, I was just happy that I didn't break my PlayStation 5 or my TV.
Good to know.
Because I was getting there. I'm not going to lie. I was getting there the first time I went through. But once you get enough attacks in, you move on to phase 4.
I gave you every chance to leave. Don't make me kill you! You can't win! Why do you keep fighting?
Because I'm Spider-Man.
Oh, that music and that line, it just hits so close because it's a very dramatic scene for Miles to really come to his own. I feel like throughout the game, up until this point, he was struggling with being in the shadow of Peter Parker's Spider-Man and becoming his own. So hearing him say that and knowing that, you know, no one else is influencing his decision to continuously fight Finn, to try to connect with her. And he's willing pretty much at this point to sacrifice anything to protect Harlem. I just thought it very touching. I may have shed a tear or two.
Yeah, I mean, this game in general, I probably shed more than a few tears. But this one, it makes me realize again, like, this is Miles' true form. This is his true self. This is exactly how he is as a person. There's no more hiding behind people or other people's decisions, kind of, you know, him making the wrong decisions because of what other people say. But this is his moment. You know what? I gotta say, though, the I'm Spider-Man line, it's starting to become a little cliche.
What?
I get the point is. I get it's because he's finally saying, I am Spider-Man. I completely agree. But it's like the I am Iron Man from Avengers. I don't know. You're talking to your best friend. I don't know. I thought he was going to say, because I love you. That would have hit me a little bit more. Maybe that's what I thought. But maybe that's why I was a little disappointed. But I do like it.
I do like the I am Spider-Man line, but I see what you're saying. I feel like because I love you would have definitely hit a little bit close to home, and us just talking about it, I feel like I'm gonna cry. So let's move on. Now that kind of Miles's reaction here, or you know, his emotions, is contrasted because, or mirrored, I would say, by Finn, because Finn even says, like, Finn doesn't want to kill him, but she's also not backing down because she really does believe in all of the reasons she's doing this. She really does believe that, you know, obviously Simon Krieger is the reason her brother is dead, but that he must be brought to justice. It's very touching, this scene. Now in phase 4, it gets more difficult.
Yeah.
Surprise. This phase kind of has everything. Death wheels that you have to dodge. And we got a sneak peek of these death wheels earlier on when we kind of were following the Tinker in earlier missions. And then all of the mechanics that we've seen from the Tinker, she is throwing them at you in this one. And you kind of have to get close to her while dodging all these different projectiles and different attacks that's happening. The death wheels for me were the most satisfying in this battle and most frustrating.
Yeah, I again, just more mechanics to dodge. I just had so much difficulty just trying to beat her in this because there were so many mechanics I had to do. But again, I like it because this is the final boss fight. This is your biggest moment. This is going to be your most difficult fight. So I do like that the mechanics became very difficult, but man, it got frustrating.
Yeah, it was definitely hard. Now, once you beat that phase, you beat Finn, which is interesting because usually games will go for the 1, 2, 3. So really, we should have been done after the 3. Phase 4 was just Insomniac trying to torture us. Really, that's what that was.
I have to say that when I played it, I didn't realize it. But then going back as I wrote my notes on this episode, going back and then realizing that there was 4 tiers of the fight, because I was like, okay, I was writing down phase 3. All right, I think that's it. Oh no, there's a phase 4. It was a long tiered fight. Like again, 3 phases you would think would be the max, but no, they threw you with another one. And hey, it's even more harder than the last one. So good luck.
Yeah, and to me, it didn't seem like it was drawn out. I thought it was actually perfectly paced, and they were different enough where it felt like you are actually progressing in a fight. Or in the battle royale, as Simon Krieger likes to say. Now, once you beat Finn, it leads to another cutscene. And as the reactor explodes even more, Finn realizes that Miles was right. She falls to what seems like her death, and Miles saves her. As they're tumbling to the ground, she finally says she's sorry, and Miles says it's okay. All is forgiven, and you land to your death. No, I'm kidding. That doesn't happen. This is a hero story. Of course you're alive, but you're badly hurt, and the reactor is about to explode. So Miles, he does what any hero would do. He decides to risk it all to get closer. And we can't get too dramatic with the sound effects, but this, like him using his venom power, it was just this whole scene. I'm getting goosebumps talking about it.
I had my controller and I felt like I was moving closer and closer to the screen. Like this was just reeling me in so much. I just loved it.
It was so good. And Miles absorbs pretty much all of the reactor power through his bioelectric power. And he's trying to hold on so it doesn't explode because obviously there's only so much that even Spider-Man can do.
Far away. I can't hold this in much longer. What are you? I can't.
It's okay.
I can't.
Just let go. Let go.
Is everyone okay?
We're safe. All of us. Hey, get out of here, kid. We'll take care of them.
Did you see his face?
You did good, Spider-Man.
Thanks.
Who is he?
That guy? He's our Spider-Man.
Okay, I think I'm crying now.
I have tears in my eyes. Oh.
I know, same here. Oh my gosh. So Finn makes the ultimate sacrifice. She takes Miles all the way up into the sky so he could, as she says, just let go. And he explodes and sacrifices her to save the millions of people in Harlem. And Miles is, the explosion really, Finn is the only casualty. As Miles falls to the ground, his face is exposed to the people, but the people of Harlem tried to protect him through this scene. And obviously, when you heard it there, when the camera shows up for the news crew, they proclaim that he's their Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Deep breaths. Deep breaths.
I am tearing up just talking about it.
Yeah, I know.
And hearing that audio, it just hits your heart, like tugs on all the emotional strings, man.
Insomniac did such a great job. Like, this isn't the first time that the emotions get to you, but it's just so perfectly done. This scene is so well done in general. Like, Finn makes the ultimate sacrifice. She sacrifices herself for the good of everything else. And she realizes the errors of her ways. She realizes that, this is my mistake. But at the same time, I think it's a little sad, because I think the reason why maybe she wants to let go is I think she's in pain. She's lost everyone in her life other than Miles. She's lost her brother. She's lost her family. She's lost her parents. She doesn't have anyone. She just has Miles. So she realizes she wants to protect these people just as much as he does. And I think her pain kind of succumbs to this, and she realizes, like, this is my time. And it's sad, but it's redeeming, and this is her redeeming moment. This is her redemption moment.
I couldn't have said it any better. Finn truly does redeem herself in this moment. And I know I wasn't expecting an ending quite like this one.
No, but they're not afraid to do these things, right?
Yeah.
Like, they've done it before. When Aunt May died, like, you didn't think that was going to happen in the first Spider-Man game. And this again, like, no one is safe. This isn't like a kid's movie or a kid's video game where everyone you love or everyone you like in the game is alive and no one dies and there's no problems. Like, this actually has, there's consequences to your actions, right? Mm-hmm. And not everyone can be saved, unfortunately. But it's good to know that she has that redeeming moment right before she ends up getting exploded. Sorry.
Yeah, like, talk about it.
Yeah, way to go. Jeez.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing, right? Like, because firstly, she saw how Miles was struggling to hold all that reactor energy. She thought quickly on her feet. And we both know Miles and Finn are pretty much like super smart. They could be scientists right now. Well, they pretty much are.
They are, yeah.
Creating all this tech, right? So for her to think that, I'd like to look back sometimes at these moments and think if there were other options. But I'm not specifically going to do that for this one here. But for her to go with that option of just sacrificing herself, I feel like it's not only a decision that she is coming to because she thinks it's the right thing to do. She's truly trying to help her friend who she sees is in pain. And even when she has Miles in her arm and she's just like, let go. It's okay. Let go. Like, it's talk about these kids being mature.
Oh, 100%. They are above. They're acting like, mature adults. It's amazing, but man, that is an emotional ride.
Yeah, Finn definitely does what most people wouldn't be able to do and puts others over herself. All right, while we deal with the kind of emotions that we're going through with this scene, I'm going to just grab a tissue and we're going to go for a quick break.
still can't get over that suit. So cool.
Gotta be me.
Yeah, you do.
Pete, does this job ever get easier?
Some of it, yeah. Some things never get easier, though.
Roxxon did this uptown because they saw us as disposable. Me, Rick, Finn, all of Harlem. I think part of our job is making sure they can't get away with it.
We'll add it to the Spider-Man oath. Go time?
Go time.
Now, Peter shows up at the end, and Miles has a discussion with him about how tough it is to be a superhero, but not before complimenting Miles' suit, because we know Peter didn't give Miles the best suit, so obviously he's a little jealous now.
We've been on him for that. Peter.
Yeah.
Come on.
Peter, you could have done better. Now, this is when Miles realizes that people will always take advantage of the less fortunate, and then that's why, really, both Peter and him are there to protect those people that are less fortunate and keep being taken advantage of by others. Now, this is just like how Miles comes into his own here. You know, usually you would see at this end, right? Like you see Peter trying to give him that little answer that it doesn't get easier, kind of. But Miles kind of comes to the realization himself. And it's interesting to see Miles now add to the Spider-Man oath something that Peter created.
Right.
I thought that was very cool.
This whole story has been about Miles coming into his own. And even the first thing that he says was like, love your suit. And he's like, you have to be yourself or whatever. He's like, yeah, of course. And then that to me was the biggest message of all, because he's like, now I fully am myself. I am who I want to be. I am no longer taking advice from other people. This is who I am, and now I realize that, and I love that about him. And again, yeah, he adds that part of him into the Spider-Man oath. Now this has really become not only a friendship, but this is literally a tag team. This is a duo of Spider-Men who are now, it's no longer, you know, Peter and his mentee. Now these guys are on level playing fields, and I love that.
It is really cool to see their relationship come to, and I feel like this is also Miles's redemption arc in a sense. We see Miles kind of make the wrong decisions throughout the game. He caused an explosion on the bridge by kind of miscalculating his moves and powers. And now he's so sure of himself. He doesn't double guess himself as he did when he made those mistakes. That this is kind of Miles's redemption arc that I think is a great way to help bring upon a satisfying conclusion.
When we brought up redemption in the first segment, you know, everyone always thinks it's probably going to be, oh, well, the villain is going to, you know, it's obviously going to be Finn who redeems herself. But here in this situation, Miles, again, the hero is not always in the right. And even though he did right by Finn and he tried to sacrifice himself and save everybody, at the end of the day, this all started because of him and because of the decisions he made that he could have stopped. Again, like you said, this is totally redemption for him. And I love seeing this side. Like, it's not just always the villain who sees the wrong, that sometimes the good guy can also be in the wrong. They're always not 100% in the right. You know, it's never, a lot of stories are always black and white. And I love when there's a little bit of gray and a little bit of middle ground that you can see.
I completely agree. And we kind of see that with the other characters as well and their redemption arcs. We see that with Finn. We kind of understand and could empathize with why she's doing what she's doing. And then we kind of, I think, luckily see her make the right decisions at the end, even though it does cost her her life. I feel like it was the right thing to do. It wouldn't be a true redemption arc if she didn't sacrifice everything, I feel like, which is surprising because I didn't expect her to sacrifice herself, but it does make sense that it happened.
We take it for granted when like characters sacrifice themselves because it's not real life, but to actually sacrifice yourself in the real world for the greater good, like most people aren't going to do that. So I applaud the video game Finn for that.
Now we look at Uncle Aaron and his redemption arc. Do we feel like it's a full conclusion? Because I personally do not.
I didn't think about this until you brought it up. And again, I think he is going to be a staple in this series moving forward. That's my thought. So I think he still has to deal with certain things. And we do get a sense of, especially like the sound samples storyline in the side quests and whatnot. Like you do get a sense of we're getting to know him a little bit more, but I think there's still a lot to unlock there. And especially, I don't think he's fully redeemed himself.
I agree with you. Now, overall, we talked about the characters and kind of the story arcs and their arcs of redemption. How did you feel about the conclusion of the game?
This game to me just had everything, and I was gripped at the end. This end was incredible. I was at the edge of my seat the entire time, and I wanted to know what was happening next. And it reels you in so hard, whether there's emotional aspect of it or, it's action or whatever. You feel for these characters and you feel like they're almost a part of your life. And by the end, I was like, I want more because I love these characters so much. And it was a very satisfying conclusion. I felt good after this game ended.
I felt actually more satisfied how this game ended than the PS4 Spider-Man game, just because it was kind of tugging on the emotions. When the game came out, I felt like the game was fully aware of what's happening in the world and was making kind of commentary on that. So then it kind of felt more than just a video game while I was playing. But Insomniac has just done a really good job with the Spider-Man franchise at building these characters that you really feel for, that you want to see win, and you want to follow them on their journey. So when you reach this conclusion, and even at the end, when you see that heartbreak and losing a friend and Miles really giving his all for all of Harlem and Harlem appreciating that, to then be contrasted to Miles walking down the street and happy because he found who he is. He knows he is, their Spider-Man. He knows who he is as Spider-Man. He's not trying to be Peter Parker's Spider-Man. It just, they just do a really good job on making you feel up when you should feel up and making you feel a little down when you need to connect with those characters.
I want to say too that Insomniac does a great job at showing the human aspect of it all and the human cost. It's not only, sometimes you get wrapped up in characters and what they're doing, and obviously it's huge in this one and the emotional factor, but it's not just them, it's Harlem. It's the people of Harlem. At the end of the game, you see the people of Harlem. He's trying to protect these people. And you see, whether it's, inside missions where you're dealing with Feast and homeless people and whatever it is, there's always some sort of human cost to having superheroes around, having villains around, and what they're trying to do. And you never really see maybe an outward look on it. And I think Insomniac does a really great job at that.
Now, I can't believe this has been a long one, but I mean, what do you expect? Okay, it's the end of the game, okay? It's going to be a bit long. That wraps up the story of Spider-Man Miles Morales, but next week, we wrap up the saga with a bow tie, a pretty little bow tie. We're going to be talking side missions, suits, Easter eggs, and our final rating of the game. So catch us next time on AutoSave. AutoSave is produced and hosted by Nick Andrade and myself, Camille Salazar-Hadaway. The show is also produced by Dylan Wilson. Gameplay and additional elements provided by Chris Zeiser. Executive producer, Clayton Hansler. You can follow the show at AutoSave Podcast on Twitter and AutoSave Pod on Instagram, YouTube, and Twitch. You can subscribe to the show wherever you're listening to it right now. And if it happens to be Apple Podcasts, kindly leave us a rating and a review, but only if it's good. AutoSave is a Soda original hosted on the Soda Podcast Network.
AutoSave.